The Soft Parade is the fourth studio album by the American rock band The Doors, and was released on July 18, 1969 on Elektra Records. It saw the group totally departing from the material that encompassed their past three albums. The Doors incorporated brass and string arrangements into their compositions at a point in which the group was experiencing personal issues, particularly related to Jim Morrison. In addition, the album fulfilled the band's desire to feature jazz and blues influences in their work. Upon release, the album peaked at number 6 on the Billboard Top LPs chart. It was preceded by Touch Me in December 1968, which awarded The Doors an unexpected top 10 hit on the Billboard Hot 100, and several other accolades, including a number 1 listing in the Cashbox charts. 3 additional singles, Wishful Sinful, Tell All the People, and Runnin Blue, also became moderate hits on the Billboard singles charts. Background: The Doors, on the tail end of their lengthy recording period, initiated a national tour that abruptly ended in disaster. On March 1, 1969, Morrison allegedly performed while intoxicated, and exposed himself in front of a crowd of nearly 12,000 in Miami, Florida, which Morrison's bandmates deny actually occurred. A month later, on April 4, Morrison was charged with indecent exposure, and paid a $5,000 bail, after Morrison had turned himself in to the authorities. The incident negatively reflected on the band's publicity, sparking a March for Decency at the Orange Bowl. Consequently, 25 dates on the Doors' next tour were cancelled, and their records were blacklisted from radio airplay, resulting in the band abandoning the rest of their potential tour. Shortly after the release of Waiting for the Sun, Morrison became disinterested in studio recordings and concert performances, a result of his interest in poetry and worsening alcoholism. As a result, Robbie Krieger wrote about half of the tracks on the album. Morrison became increasingly uncooperative and disruptive when recording for the album commenced, as he regularly missed sessions or was intoxicated when he managed to be present. As the Doors record producer Paul Rothchild explained, Jim was not really interested after about the third album. It became very difficult to get him involved in the records. When we made the Soft Parade, it was like pulling teeth to get Jim into it. The alcoholic dependencies caused Morrison to act estranged from his bandmates, prompting Ray Manzarek to name Morrison's, sometimes aggressive, alcoholic state, Jimbo. Aside from the troubles originating from Morrison, the album marked the one and only time in which each songwriter was credited under his own name, instead of the band name. This stemmed from Morrison not wanting to be associated with the lyrics of Tell All the People, as one line urges listeners to grab your guns. Following rehearsals in June 1968, the Doors commenced a grueling 9-month recording period which concluded in May 1969 at Elektra Sound Recorders in Los Angeles, California, in contrast to the 6 days their debut album required. Morrison later reflected on the drawn-out sessions, saying in 1970, "It kinda got out of control, and took too long in the making. It spread over 9 months. An album should be like a book of stories strung together, some kind of unified feeling and style about it, and that's what the Soft Parade lacks." The album differed from past efforts for its addition of brass and string arrangements. For the first time, the band were required to write their compositions in the studio, while past albums featured material derived from experiments in their live performances. Rothfield brought in Paul Harris to handle the arrangements and horn overdues, while session musicians Doug Luban and Harvey Brooks were hired to play bass guitar. A staggering amount of $80,000 was required to pay for the creation of the album. The complexity and difficulty of the developments prompted George Harrison, who appeared at the sessions in November 1968, to be reported as stating it resembled the complexity required for the Sgt. Pepper recordings. Release: The Soft Parade was released on July 18, 1969 on the Elektra label. Despite a lukewarm critical reception, the album became the band's fourth top 10 hit album in a row, and the single Touch Me was hugely successful. However, despite making number 6 in the US, the album did not chart in the UK, perhaps due to the band's lack of a supporting hit single. Whereas the first 3 Doors albums had 2 singles pulled from each of them, The Soft Parade had a grand total of 4, though some of them had initially been released as non-album singles significantly prior to the album's release. The only two songs on the LP that weren't released as either the A or B side of a single were the title cut and Shaman's Blues. All four single A sides were written by Robbie Krieger, the only four solo compositions that Krieger contributed to the album, and none by Jim Morrison. The album was completely remixed and remastered for its 40th anniversary reissue. This practice extended to incorporating vocal and instrumental components which were not part of the original album. According to Ray Manzarek, there are background vocals by Jim Morrison, piano parts of mine that weren't used and guitar stingers and solos by Robbie Krieger that never made the original recordings, that can now be heard for the first time. Reception: The Soft Parade has been panned by critics. Alec Dubrow, of Rolling Stone, was highly negative regarding the band's writing abilities as he wrote, "The Soft Parade is worse than infuriating it's sad. It's sad because one of the most potentially moving forces in rock has allowed itself to degenerate, writing that it represents a clear and present decline in musicianship, and that it is not vital, not very listenable and is certainly not interesting. It sounds for all the world like the stuff they had the good sense to leave off their first albums." Jazz and Pop magazine analyst Patricia Canely Morrison, on the other hand, praised the band's attempt as experimentation, writing, "Most of it is very superior music and some is absolutely glorious." In his retrospective review, Richie Unterberger of AllMusic called it the weakest studio album recorded with Jim Morrison in the group. Track listing. Personnel: The Doors, Jim Morrison lead vocals, maracas, tambourine, Ray Manzarek piano, Gibson G101 organ, RMI Elektra piano on Shaman's Blues, and The Soft Parade, Hammond organ on Wild Child, The Soft Parade, and Do It, harpsichord on Touch Me, and The Soft Parade, Robbie Krieger guitar, chorus vocal on Runnin Blue, John Densmore drums, additional musicians, Curtis Amy saxophone solo on Touch Me, Lionel Andino conga, George Bohannon trombone, Harvey Brooks bass guitar, Jimmy Buchanan fiddle on Runnin Blue, Douglas Luban bass guitar, Jesse McReynolds mandolin, Champ Webb English horn solo on track 8, Paul Harris orchestral arrangements, technical, Paul A. Rothchild production, Peter Skoman sleeve illustration. Chart positions, Billboard Music Charts. Album singles Certifications. References. External links: The Soft Parade at Discogs.